Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Extra Trashy, and I'm joined by my freshly unemployed co-host, iDom. How you doing, man?
What's up? What's up? And the unemployment line. You know what? Trash talk, unemployment line kind of makes sense.
Yeah, you're right where you belong. Yeah, so recently unemployed by XSET. We'll actually get into that today. So for today's topics, Capcom finally responds to the costume situation. I know everyone's been waiting for that. We got some big tournaments coming back with Bull Kumite and sponsors in the FGC. We've seen a lot of churn, really, and a lot of big developments with how sponsors are working, especially the Street Fighter community with the top level pros. iDom, fresh off of getting dropped by XSET. We'll get the inside scoop here. And then we have questions from you guys as well on the Brian F. Patreon page. We're starting up the dumpster diving segment here. So we have a really insightful question that we'll get into at the end of the topics here. But first off, yes, Capcom has finally actually responded to the clamoring for new costumes in Street Fighter 6. They put out a statement on January 31st, that's yesterday from the time of this recording. They said, "Thank you very much for all the support in playing Street Fighter 6. The team is working hard on delivering new experiences, and we would like to inform you about some upcoming content plans. We've seen the requests from the community, and would like to share that we've been working on new Fighting Ground character outfits since last year." And Fighting Ground being the main gameplay mode, right? It's still weird to me that they have to specify it in that way. It sounds very technical, but they mean, you know, Ryu, Ken, Aki, whoever. That's what they're talking about. However, please note it's difficult for us to release every character outfit all at once due to the amount of time it takes to develop them. We plan to begin releasing them gradually starting this summer. Regarding future fighting passes, we have been reassessing their contents and the frequency of their release, and will be making changes starting in year 3, with the goal of increasing the amount of items within each fighting pass that can be used in Fighting Ground. Rest assured, we will continue to put our best efforts into ongoing development and service operations for Street Fighter 6. Thank you so much for your continued support. So they at least communicated, right? I don't think they've changed any plans to put out costumes more frequently, but at least they acknowledge that, hey, yeah, we've been kind of slow with the costumes, right?
Yeah, the thing is, so what I got from that was kind of my already conspiracy theory with going on with the costumes. Like, the problem is, like, you can throw Chun-Li in a skimpy outfit and, you know, it's gonna sell all the time. The problem stems from Honda gotta get a costume, Dhalsim gotta get a costume, you know, the characters no one likes gotta get costumes as well. So they're kind of holding the other characters back in a sense. Like, they're holding Chun-Li hostage from, you know, my bunny Chun-Li skin, because Dhalsim gotta get a Yoga Man costume or something. I can't even think of a Dhalsim costume off the top of my head. But
right.
That's the main issue, I feel like.
Yeah, a couple of those characters are kind of pigeonholed into like one type of costume, right? Like Dhalsim, yoga, hippie vibes, Honda. I guess they figured out how to bring in like the casual Hawaiian sort of vacation costumes. That seems to be like the other strategy for the more chill or like the more like pocketed characters. They did that with Oro as well in Street Fighter 5. It's like, what do you do with this old dude who lives in a cave and eats bugs, right? Like, he has his tattered robe already. Like, what else do you do with him? Oh, send him to Hawaii on vacation, right? So yeah, I feel like they do have to get kind of creative with those characters, whereas, like, you know, the waifu characters, they can just put them in a gazillion different outfits. It's like so ripe for creating costumes, and they sell like hotcakes as well. And it's funny, it's like a grass is greener situation, because in Street Fighter 5 there was a lot more continuous updates for their costumes and sort of like the DLC content in that sense in the main game mode. But a lot of it was done in, like, it was biased towards the specific characters. They did have costume packs, and sometimes they were thematic, like, you know, collaborations like with like other Capcom franchises, like the Mega Man costumes. But that wasn't for everybody, right? That there was like the Mega Man costumes. There was like a Rashid, a Balrog.
Ryu had one.
Yeah, Ryu, a handful of characters, not just the Chun-Li's, but not everyone got a Mega Man costume. And then, of course, Chun-Li was getting costumes every other week, it felt like.
Yeah. Everyone loves Chun-Li.
Right, and so people complained about that at the time, but now we have the inverse problem where they're holding all the way back until everybody's done, and, you know, there's not enough updates. So, like, which one would you prefer?
Obviously, I'm on the side of, you know, give the popular characters a costume, because no one cares about Honda. Come on, man. We've been here for like 20, 30 years. No one's playing Honda. They can give him the Kappa costume. That was a popular one. But even still, it's Chun-Li's just gonna make money. I'm still so mad we were deprived of the Yor costume for Chun-Li from Spy X Family. We didn't get the it was in the anime. They had a whole anime sequence fight for the character, and she could have easily got that costume, but instead it's for the Avatar battle. So come on, Capcom. I'm glad that they acknowledged it, because now it kind of confirms my conspiracy theory. But I still think it sucks that we gotta wait for costumes for like the Dulcims and the Honda. I know I'm bullying them, but they're kind of the two main problematic characters I see in there.
They're holding us back, these damn Hondas and Dulcims. Well, you know, I mean, I understand why they wanted to address it that way, because there was a lot of complaining, right? I mean, this is the hard part. I don't envy anyone in like the developer's position, right? Like, no matter what, there's always going to be the vocal minority that's being pissed. It's really hard to sift through community feedback, and it's not like we make it easier here, right? Like, we're contributing to the noise and the voices. But like, no matter what, you're gonna have detractors and complainers, right? So people complain nonstop. Hey, you're only giving us Chun-Li costumes. They memed on that. Now, hey, there's no costumes at all. So I think the number one thing to always focus on in that position is to communicate with the audience to kind of soothe those that unease and bridge that gap. And I'm glad they put out the statement, right? Because it has been over a year. Street Fighter 6's the Outfit 3 costume pack that released on December 1st, 2023. We're in February of 2025, right? They needed to say something. That is nuts. That is absurd. And the other thing to give them credit is like they double down again on the fact that they're like working hard on this. It takes so much time. You know, I hate when people try to like excuse the developer. Like, Capcom is a big company. If they wanted to put out costumes faster, I think they could for sure. But to give credit to that side, Street Fighter V, they did outsource a lot of not only the costumes, but the models. Like, there was a lot of inconsistencies with the style and the quality for the character models and the costumes, because they did outsource a lot of that development. Now, everything seems to be done in-house on the RE engine, so there's a lot more uniformity, not just in the release cadence for the costumes, but also the quality, right? So they're not just putting out random Chun-Li costumes and then some other random characters that are done by different studios outsourced. It's all in-house, all under one development team, and for all the cast all at once. So I can see why that's taking a lot longer. But I just don't know if that strategy is the best strategy. I do think they need to just let the floodgates open and prioritize certain things. I mean, Mai's releasing. Are you gonna miss that cash cow? Like, that's like, you have Chun-Li, Mai, Jury. Like, there's so many. Like, I don't care about, like, that's not my, you know, forte. That's not really my taste. But I understand these things sell. And even then, I would like to see, even if it's not a character I play, I would like to see other people use different costumes and stuff like that. I think it adds a lot of variety to the game. It helps players find their own identity. So we'll see if they keep this up. I wonder if they're going to change the strategy in the future. But also, they talked about having future fighting passes with the amount of items that can be used in fighting ground. So I don't know if they're hinting at other sort of developments in terms of costumes, or if it's just going to be more like the pre-fight intros where they have like, oh, a new rival, fight your rival, and it's like your own custom sound and display for your character. Maybe it's just more stuff like that, but it seems like they're trying to actually add more stuff for fighting ground, the versus mode, rather than just like the battle hub itself. So I don't know if you saw that as well and have any thoughts about it.
I think they could do some cool stuff with like that kind of stuff. Like, there's so many like little things they can make to make the fight more not interesting, to make the fight more, I guess, personal, or like, you know, expand it. Like, say hypothetically, instead of, you know how it's like, hey, you know, Ryu versus Chun-Li, fight. Imagine if it's like, hey, Ryu versus Chun-Li, let's rock. Like, or, you know, let's, what do they say in Mortal Kombat? Well, they say fight still. But
Fight's a pretty good one.
yeah. But let's rock. They could change it. Hey, man, choose your fate, fight, or something. Kind of, they could mix it up. But there's a lot of things. Or they're just hitting at customization, kind of like how Tekken had. You know, you can fight as Ryu as a burrito for some reason because Chipotle sponsorship, or however they want to go about it. They could just go the full customization right how Tekken does it.
They could. I hope they don't. That's me personally. I mean, it's funny in Tekken here and there, but I think it's too much. But I don't know. People like that. I would rather just have a lot more standardized costumes and colors, which they're also adding a little bit with the new ranks. So they
Oh,
added, what is it, High Master, Ultimate Master.
and
They're adding new,
Grandmaster.
yeah, they're adding new ranks tied to the MR system, so that there's something to bridge the gap. Yeah, High Master, Grandmaster, and Ultimate Master to bridge the gap between just regular Master and Legend tied to your MR. And then they're also giving rewards for logging in and playing with the characters as well. So they have the master rewards, and it looks like they're flexing a purple color. So I guess the idea is that as long as you played X amount of time or games with the character and you earn these points, you can unlock the color for that character. So that's a step in the right direction, right? On top of having like no costumes, there's no colors, and now they're adding an incentive to play the main versus mode as well. And they're, because a huge problem I think is the retention rate. Once you hit master, so many players are like, I finished the game, even though it just
No,
began.
they're thinking they hit the pinnacle of Street Fighter. I can't get any better. I'm the best already. So that's where you
Right.
get to when you hit master, and then it's just, oh, I'm done. I've conquered Street Fighter. Time to go play something else.
Yeah. And then a lot of players who do try to get past that, they have the other rude awakening, because like master starts you at 1500 MR, which is like the average mean of the points, but most players end up just losing. Like they drop down to like 1300, you know. So they hit this like brutal like check where it's like, okay, I just lost 20 games in a row. I don't belong here. Like I've seen so many posts on like our Street Fighter where people like crying and having imposter syndrome, like I don't belong in Master, no. And it's like, yeah, you do, but you just belong at 1300 MR right now. That's fine, or like 1200, whatever it may be. Like that's the whole point, is that Master rank is unlocking the final ranking system. It's not the final rank. Your MR is like the way you gauge your performance in ranked. It's not the LP or the master rank. And so I just think having a few things to smooth over that transition is really good for player retention. Give rewards for people logging into play, and have more attainable goals as well. Because even for like actual tournament winning players in America, Legend rank is like too hard, because the way the regionality works with MR, you're competing with Japan, who has the majority of the points. It's like an economic situation. There's literally less points in circulation in different regions. So for a lot of players who like can win big tournaments here and would easily have Legend in Japan, they can't get it in America. So if they're struggling to get it, nobody else has a shot in hell of getting Legend. So having something in between is like, okay, like we're at least addressing that a little bit. Have you been able to finish every season in Legend, or have you like struggled to keep it at the end of an MR season?
Uh, I think getting Legends pretty not to toot my own horn, but I think getting Legends pretty easy. I just think
iDom.
you just gotta play. You just gotta play. If I put the time in and play, I'll hit Legend. If I don't, then I'm not gonna hit Legend. But to be fair, there's no incentive to hit Legend. I do want to go off about that color they're giving out, because that color is ugly. That color is hideous. I hated it. I was like, what is this?
You don't like the purple?
No, I don't. It's ugly. It's terrible. They could have gave us like a blue or a red, a normal color. That purple is just ugly. I saw Ken with like the purple hair. I was like, what is this?
Oh, that's true. Ken does have the purple hair. Not everyone has their hair changed, but Ken does have it. It looks like Ed has the purple hair as well. But at least it's something. I don't care about this color either, but I just like the structure of it. Like, adding more
at least
things,
it's something. Yeah,
adding more things to incentivize players to play, it is always good. I know a lot of like, probably we have a lot of older fighting game fans listening to this. Like, wow, what's wrong with these like, these dopamine addicted, ADHD, attention span destroyed scrubs here. It's true though. Modern gamers need a reason to log in, and I think that's a development in the right direction. Anytime we get that. Fighting games are like a decade behind in terms of this design, and maybe it's capitalizing a bit on FOMO. Whatever, man. If people have a reason to play, that's good to me.
That's why every game does it. I mean, Marvel Rivals gives you a skin if you get gold, which is actually nothing. Like Master, I guess in Street Fighter is a bit high, because I know getting a Master for some people isn't the easiest task. But even in Marvel Rivals, if you get gold, you get a new skin. Like that's enough for a lot of people to play and keep grinding.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I'm a bit of a hard ass in that sense, where I'm just like, someone even tweeted at me today, like, wow, don't you think they should add incentives for other ranks or whatever? And I was like, just get to master. Like, that's how I respond. I'm like, what? First of all, why are you complaining at me for this? Second of all, just get to master. Because maybe I'm being elitist here. I do feel master's a very attainable goal for a lot of people, but we need to also bridge that gap, find more structured ways to help people understand the game at a better level. But yeah, I think more incentives is always good.
You got Brian Elitist over here. I'll have you know my.
Okay, Mister, it's easy to get legend over here. What are you talking about?
It's easy for me to get legend. I don't think it's easy for everyone else to get legend. It's easy for me to get legend.
Yeah, I'm the elitist one. All right.
I've had some non-fighting game friends try Street Fighter 6, and actually one of them got to Diamond, and actually one of them got to Master. Actually, maybe you're right, Brian. Maybe getting Master is easy. Yeah.
I don't think it's that hard. It's just people need guidance. I think that's the biggest problem, because if you can coach people so easily, I think, to get to master in this game. It's just they need to be put in the right direction. So bridging that gap is like, I don't mean to say like if you're not getting to master, you are a bad player. That's not what I mean. I just think you probably have very obvious flaws to someone from the outside looking in who could direct you very quickly. And so how do we bridge that is the question. And then you have the innate ability to get master. I believe in anyone listening to this. You are not incapable of doing it. You might just need to have a few things ironed out, and I think you could do it.
It's a funny story. My friend who, like, we went to high school together and we were just playing, but he had picked up Street Fighter 6, and I think he started in like silver or something, but he played Modern Ken. So I kind of coached him all the way up to Diamond, and then he was like, he got stuck in Diamond. He was like, man, I can't do this. It's too hard. And then I think I was watching one of his matches for him. I was like, oh, do you know how to drive rush or something like that? And then as soon as I gave him that, he got all the way to master. And I was like, was like, oh, that's all I needed. I was like, yeah, I know how this game works. And yeah, it helps. It really does help.
Playing the Slam has made me realize how like coaching is actually so valuable for some people, because unless they're like immersed in the scene and watching every match, and then isolating what they're doing, they can so easily miss easy things that instantly like skyrockets their win rate.
He got all the way to Diamond without knowing how to drive rush. So I think he
raw drive rush or drive rush cancel.
Drive rush cancel.
Okay, so he didn't do any combos basically.
He knew combo, like he knew Ken's target combo. Like he could do light, medium, heavy, short Yukin, but. He didn't know how to drive rush. He didn't know how to do a lot of things. But he would just throw fireballs and then DP because he was on modern, and he's like, this is the easiest thing.
Yeah, it's funny. With Coney on my team, he was playing Street Fighter 2, and like finally on the final day, he started to do drive rush cancel. No, on the second day. First day he was playing Street Fighter 2, Fireball DP. Second day he did drive rush cancel, but always into jab, like crouching media kick into jab, 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 jab. And I'm like, you're doing no damage. Final day, he finally did drive rush cancel into heavy punch and just killed people. And I was like, yes, you could see the progression of like just using the mechanics and then killing people. So anyways, yeah, if you guys are struggling to get to master for these colors, watch the Sage M Slam footage. I think you can see a lot of people going through that process, and you can pick apart what you can take away from it. But next topic up, we have some interesting tournament developments. Red Bull Kumite, a staple in the FGC, has announced that they're coming back, and they're returning to, I believe, Paris, back to their where they first started 10 years ago. And I think the big thing about this is with the announcement, they're really doubling down on like the characters of Li Joe and Rob TV as the hosts. So I forget the titles for each person, but they have like, what is it, the games master, and what is Rob's and Li's title?
Li Joe is the bodyguard, if I'm remembering correctly, and for Rob, I don't remember what Rob
I think
was.
It's the battle master they call him, but either way, they've been building up these characters of Rob TV and Li Joe, and they're establishing this 8 legends versus 8 underdogs. That's kind of the setup they're going for. So there's probably going to be some returning big names invited to this, and there's also going to be some play-in qualifiers as well. And it's the legends versus the underdogs. That's like Li Joe's and Rob's or the inverse. L.A. Joe has the underdogs, Rob has the legends, and that's their teams. And then they have a full-blown anime fight between Anime Rob TV and L.I. Joe in France by the Metro City Cafe to promote this. Really high quality. So I logged into Twitter and I'm like, why am I seeing Anime Rob TV and L.I. Joe beat the crap out of each other? I was actually like super impressed with the quality they had for that.
I mean, Red Bull always does good quality stuff, but it looks sick. I'm curious who they invited, because the 8 legends, like, there's a lot of legends in our scene, so there's so many people they could take from. Like, obviously Daigo's probably the most famous in the scene, but then again, you still got like Tokido and Punk and the underdogs too, because there's a lot of new up and comer during the SF6 era, so
Right.
It could happen. Or like it'll be cool to see. Like, I don't think Daigo is the best player. Like, okay, I don't think Daigo's the best SF6 player, but at the same time, it'll be cool to see Daigo take on some of the new people. I already know I'm gonna get flamed. Anytime I say anything bad about Daigo, it's instant flame. So I already know I'm in trouble for that one.
Yeah, it's like, can you be a legend and an underdog at the same time? Because
exactly.
with the way the competition is, Daigo obviously status-wise is the legend, but you put him in a bracket with a certain number of other players, and he's the underdog. No disrespect to Daigo, it's just there's so many good players out there. Like you depending on how you structure it, you can frame anyone as an underdog in this situation.
If this was Street Fighter 4, Daigo would be the legend. Actually, I think this Kumite is also sick too, because I think the first one was in France, but this was the Street Fighter 4 one that I think Bonchan won, right? That was the first one in France?
Yeah, Bonchan, I believe, won the first one, or maybe Tokido got close to it. And it's a return to where it began. Like the Red Bull Kumite team, they're the main producer. He's from France as well. So it's returning on the 10-year anniversary to where it all started. And they've always just done super high quality productions, of course, like Red Bull Kumite, and what was the last one? Was it in New York? Was the last one with Mena RD won that one in dominant fashion, beat the crap out of everybody, and so now it's going back to Paris. So yeah, I'm just interested to see who they pick for either category, since they're putting those labels. Like the underdogs, people might be like, I don't know, they might be younger.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of. I think the team underdog is going to be 25 and under. I don't think there's going to be any old heads on the underdog team.
Right. Because Mena RD and Punk are also younger, though. It's like
they're getting old. They're both 25 plus now.
Are they?
I think Punk's 2 years younger than me. I think he's like 26 or 27 now.
Punk is 26. Okay.
Yeah, it's 25 and under.
Mena RD's got to be younger. Mena RD's 25.
Okay, right there.
Right, yeah. But still, I mean, we're talking about Daigo's like 42.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
The new Street Fighter 6 players are like 20, 21, 22 kind of.
We'd have to see like a Blas or someone, you know what I mean? Like one of the prodigies coming out of Chile, like Crime or Blas, maybe an Enzo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Enzo's super good. I feel like, I don't know if Enzo would that would be really crazy to see him make a performance there. If you guys don't know, Enzo is like also 13 from, I believe, from California, West Coast, I believe. He's like one of the upcoming prodigies. Noah the Prodigy, right? It's in the name. Noah, I don't know. Well. Yeah, but like, is Noah an underdog at this point? That's the weird
that's
thing.
Kind of the Because if Noah's playing Daigo and I had to bet money on it, I would go Noah. But at the same time, it's Daigo's the legend. Like, that's Daigo, kind of thing.
Right. So. Legend status and favorite are like two totally separate things. So it's going to be interesting how they try to like create the narrative. Because a big part of the Red Bull Kumite stuff, it's not just the games, it's the setting, the atmosphere, the production, and how they structure the narrative around it to make it a lot more exciting, rather than it just being a traditional tournament. So I like the underdog versus legends theme, but I do feel like it'd be hard to pull off considering how mixed everything is and how much talent is younger and younger these days. It's really hard to establish that. We've already seen our legends toppled so many times.
I guess the bet, who would you think the best player right now is over 35? Well, I guess Xiaohai, right? Over 35 would be
Tokido.
Takedo or Shanghai, right?
Tokido is 39. That man does not age. That is crazy. He's 39. I feel like he's just been looking better and better. But man, Tokido has it all figured out. Still got like a Street Fighter, in shape, just looking badass. Oh, that's crazy. I did not know Tokido was 39.
I guess there's a decent amount of legends they could pull for. But like I said, I would want the legend category because like Punk's obviously a legend, but like he's getting up there in age. But I would want the legend category to be all like 30, 35 plus. I think that would be cool.
Right. I wonder if they just forego like the young legends, because Mena RD and Punk, they aren't legends yet, in my opinion. Maybe that's just me being old, but they are going to be legends. But they're still so active; they're in their prime. So I feel like legend, like Punk just won Evo. So to me, that doesn't make him legendary yet. He's legendary a few years after that has occurred, right? I mean, legend literally is meant to be harkening back to a story a time before. That's what a legend refers to. They are legendary. So I do think it implies some level of time passing. Mena RD is still in their prime, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how they define that. We'll see. I don't know. Depending on how they divvy this up, this might be a wash. We'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully, I trust Red Bull Kumite. They'll figure it out.
They get like 40-year-old Daigo, 40-year-old Sako. Who else is super?
Idazan.
Yeah, Idazan.
They're all great though.
Yeah, they're all good. But if they're going against like the youngins, I'm on Team Youngins winning that one.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not an age thing necessarily. So we'll have to see how they divvy it up. So that's going to be a good event to look out for. But speaking of things to look out for getting dropped by your esports organization. So sponsors in the FGC. It's been on a downward trend for a very long time. I mean, in general, I feel like the esports bubble, especially in the FGC, has popped long before Street Fighter 6 even released, and there wasn't that actual wave of big sponsors coming in with the release of Street Fighter 6 like we saw with Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5, there was a huge boon in the esports economy. All the the capital coming in from venture capitalists trying to potentially make a quick win. All that's going to AI and crypto and everything now, right? But that at one point in time, esports was that other bubble that people were investing in. We saw tons of players getting sponsored. But there's been a real downward trend in sponsorships in the FGC. So, we saw Mena RD. He got picked up by Team Falcons with a partnership with them after leaving Bandits, who was like, that's his DR team, that's his people. There was a real close connection with Mena RD and Bandits, which was really surprising to see him leave Bandits to go to Falcons. So the assumption is that he must have been making bank from that, because that wasn't just an esports team. That's kind of like family with Bandits, and the way he talks about them. He really respects and loved his time with that organization. But he's no longer with Falcons. This month, or in January, their partnership ended. I don't know if I would say dropped or not, but it ended, and it seemed to be like one of those sponsorships that was part of the Esports World Cup, where a lot of teams picked up players in order to potentially earn points for like the club championship, where if you have enough players across different titles, get it placed well enough, you earn points per title, per player in each title, and that could lead to millions of dollars. Part of the Saudi government funding all this to grow their esports portfolio. So it led to a lot of like short-term sponsorships. So I didn't know Falcons was going to be one of these for Mena, but it turns out maybe it was. And then now iDom next to the chopping block.
My thing is, I feel like much different, because like I wasn't even in the esports World Cup. I was just there. I was on XSET because like that was kind of just like my first sponsor, and kind of like along for the ride. It was a great ride, and like I'm grateful that I was even on the team in the first place, and I had a great time while I was there. But it's just coming to an end. That was a long contract, and I was kind of playing there for a long time. I don't think it wasn't like a bad drop or like a bad breakup or anything. It was just kind of like a mutual agreement to say, okay, time to both go our separate way, because we're getting older, and kind of like that. I don't think it was like that for Mena either. I just feel like Falcons probably was like, oh, let's take a different direction, or how we were gonna go. Or maybe you were just here for the esports World Cup, and now
Right.
esports World Cup is over. So now, I'm not kicking you out, but we both did what we wanted to do for each other. So the
Right.
relationship's kind of over.
Yeah, I would say you had a pre-esports World Cup sponsorship. I do think the shape of sponsorships is changing entirely because all of this was based on funny money, like I mentioned before. Like in Street Fighter V era, there were so many big teams, or was the before that it was like EG, and then there was like the Echo Foxes, and so many teams were getting into the FGC and esports in general because they were all funded by venture capitalists investing on a speculation that this would take off and be like the next Super Bowl or like the next NFL, the next NBA, whatever. And that did not come to fruition. And then esports or COVID, like, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, it was over, right? And we already saw the downward trend, like post 2017, there was a downward trend in general in esports, and it was done, right? And I would say like your sponsorship with XSET was a pre esports World Cup sponsorship. It was still like surprising that even happened because you got picked up in 2021, if I remember.
Yeah, during the online days, but I think that was right around the time. I don't. COVID was kind of ending. Like people were kind of going outside more, and people are still going with more brackets. So it was still good in that sense. But at the same time, like joining XSET, one of the main things I wanted to do while I was on XSET was do like events in New York because I love New York, and I'm always going to be grateful that a lot of the players and a lot of people there were in New York support me because we did like two or three big events in New York because we had the charity event. We had we had like two events at Brookland and an event at OS, and we did like a big charity event where we raised like $5,000 just playing like a Street Fighter 5 tournament. So all that stuff was great, and I love being able to do that. But now it's just that was it. That was kind of my the end of an era kind of thing. Not getting dropped, but like mutual, just kind of trying to leave.
Yeah, that was one of the last sponsorships though of that type, and getting that on the tail end of Street Fighter V was really exceptional, right? Like that was no one was getting picked up at that time for that sort of thing, so that was really a remarkable thing to have occur. And then
I was winning a lot at the end, man. And come on, I was kind of
you were doing your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost won Evo. Yeah, no, you were the best. Like I said, I mean, you did in our trash talk episode, you didn't care about it, but I said you're about to have a dynasty, and then COVID kind of robbed you of that. But yeah, you were cooking. But still, it was the tail end of a mature game with COVID going on. It wasn't like 2017 era for the Capcom Pro Tour and esports as a whole. So not that you weren't doing amazing, but I'm just saying the community around the game that you were dominating in was not in the same position. So it was still like a remarkable thing to have occur, not because you didn't have the talent or the results to back it up, but just the life cycle of the game itself, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting to see happen. And then I think with Street Fighter 6, we saw a little bit of that pick up again, like people getting sponsored. I think Punk is on Fly Fighters. After CLG exploded, they some of the team rebranded and got back together to make that happen with FlyQuest. And then, Knuckle Dude's on like Spotify Rebellion. I keep saying Spotify Rebellion. Shopify Rebellion. I say Spotify Rebellion every single time.
It's too close.
So
it's too close.
Yeah, there's been a few like big sponsors for like our big NA players, for example. But for the most part, we see like the new form of sponsorship is these temporary sponsorships for players to participate in the Esports World Cup, because that's where money comes in. Because people don't know, like Esports World Cup will literally pay teams to pick up players. Like there's so much money that it's not even tangible anymore. Like it doesn't make sense. Like the Saudi government is putting so much money into all these programs to diversify their economy away from oil, and esports is one of the major avenues we're trying to potentially diversify and find success in. So they're literally paying teams to pick up players to have them participate in the Esports World Cup. There's no return on investment. Like at no point has any team ever made money from sponsoring a fighting game player. Like maybe they've pieced together a few programs to make a return, but like you're just throwing money into a furnace, hoping that eventually it turns a profit. That's really what you're doing.
I think you're definitely not making your money back. Let's get that out the way. But I do think there are some benefits to sponsoring fighting game players, though, because at the same time, if they're performing well in circuits when there are offline tournaments, because like I said, we don't have that many offline tournaments right now, or even if they're just like making content or streaming, all that stuff helps. Those are kind of what the new thing that I feel like people are asking for in sponsorships nowadays, because people like. You can't win it. One thing I did learn from being on XSET is you're not going to win every event. Let's just get that out the way. No one's winning every single event. So being able to just content or even get your name out there helps a lot, because people want to see you in their jersey or see them on your stream. If you're streaming to like 500, 1,000, 2,000, doesn't matter, X amount of people, you're still their brand is going to be on your stream. So all that stuff kind of helps. And that's why I think streaming and just being a name in the FGC is so important nowadays. It's in my opinion, is I hate saying this, because you remember me in 2019, 2020, I was like, man, I don't need any of this. I'm just going to win every event. But now I'm seeing winning every event kind of doesn't. Winning the Capcom Cups and the EWCs is great. That's where the real money's going to come in. But even those events happen. There's only 2 a year. And, winning those events are really hard. But just sponsoring, having your name out there, doing events, doing like charities, all helps so much nowadays. And is what I feel like sponsors want to see more of now.
Right. No, well, I 100% agree with what you're saying from the perspective of the player. And I've been advocating that for forever, right? Like, I mean, I got to be on Steel G while being like a mediocre NA player because, I did the content thing, right? Like, that's what you got to do. And as a player, if you want to try to make your pathway into that and eventually maybe earn sponsorship if they exist anymore, I would 100% recommend building up your presence and building up your content, your stream, your YouTube, whatever, on top of achieving results and success in competition as well. But still, from the sponsorship perspective, it's still a big freaking gamble. Like, they want more eyeballs because the eyeballs are what they allow to gather metrics to then pitch that to, I should call them, the teams are doing that. They want to take those metrics of how many viewers and how many people are looking at their logo and pitch that to sponsors who can then sell them packages. Okay, like, hey, as part of we have X number of players across their streams, they get this many viewers. And then when they get on these tournament streams have that many viewers. And this is like, these are the number of impressions we can sell to you if you become a sponsor for our team with all these players we have on our roster. And then AT&T or whatever, like Monster Energy, whatever, they go, okay, yeah, we like that, we'll give you X number of dollars to add our logo to this, and then maybe you do we'll sponsor this content segment you do if you add ads for whatever. That's how they actually are trying to make this a sustainable business. And then the people who are also funding that for the most part are people investing in the team to achieve that goal so that they can eventually find a way to make actual money from it. So what I'm saying is that doesn't work. That's what I'm saying. I think fundamentally it's not working. And so what I'm saying is the business of being a team that sponsors players is not going to last, I think. And the only way they're lasting now is because EWC is now coming in, and instead of having venture capitalists trying to invest in it, they're just like, hey, we'll give you millions of dollars because we just want you, like, now EWC is footing the bill. And then we want you to send players here to make our event look big and grand and participate. And then if you guys win, we'll give you even more money, right? Like, they have so much money, it doesn't even make sense. It's like it doesn't even register as money anymore, right? They're just throwing it around left, right, and center. And so we're seeing a lot of sponsorships like that right now. Like Dual Kevin, he was on Furia, whatever. They sponsored him for eSports World Cup. After it was over, dropped, right? Like, this is all super temporary stuff. And eSports, Dual Kevin's in Capcom Cup. You're in Capcom Cup, right? We're seeing Men RDs in Capcom Cup. We're seeing Capcom Cup qualified players being dropped because it doesn't matter. All that matters is eSports World Cup. And I'm saying your contract was different. Yours was a pre-eSports World Cup era contract, and it just came to its end, right? But all the new stuff, it's all for eSports World Cup. That's it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see all these players picked up again for a 6-month contract come next eSports World Cup. Hopefully they get us a bunch of millions of dollars. Okay, it's over. Okay, we drop them again.
I think obviously every org is trying to get a dip in their money. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these players are picked up before Capcom Cup, because like it's another hopefully cash grab. Look, I don't want to say cash grab because that makes it sound bad, but
it is.
Somebody's gonna win them. No, okay. Cash grab sounds bad though. But
hey, sign on. Maybe we get 15% of your winnings. We'll pay you $10,000 for a month. Oh, yeah, they won $1 million. Oh, what
it was
do you
worth
know?
it. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's a cash grab all the way, but it's such a bad way to put it. But I think it is more getting their logo, because like Capcom Cup is probably the second or third biggest FGC event, only behind like Evos and stuff. Right. So people are going to be tuned in, and people are going to see the jerseys on the players at Capcom Cup. So all that stuff is really good as well. And then, like I said, it helps their metric and it helps them get their names out there. So I think people are just trying to take advantage of the big event. It's just the big events minus Evo are paying so much, so people are going to tune in anyway. Like EWC was probably top 5 spectated events of all the fighting game tournaments that ever happened, because EWC is huge. Capcom Cup is huge, etc. Kumite is huge, but you don't get paid as much for Kumite. But even then, a sponsor probably from the Kumite coming up, people will probably get sponsored to be a part of that Kumite just because there's going to be so many eyes on Kumite. I feel like sponsors want the eyes on the player. It just so happens that a lot of the biggest events in the FGC has so much money on the line, and EVO.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the case to a degree, but like I said, all these players are in Capcom Cup, they got dropped before Capcom Cup. So it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't enough to keep the contract going, right? They did. To me, the traditional model would be you sponsor the players so they can make an effort to get into Capcom Cup, and then that's the whole point. That's clearly not the point anymore. The point is eSports World Cup. It's completely replaced that end goal for the teams. Completely replaced it. It doesn't matter anymore.
But it's also a problem of sponsors probably don't even need to sponsor X players anymore, because the viewership is not as big. Like, okay, in 2019, if somebody got sponsored, or like a player was getting sponsored, and I flew them out to Combo Breaker, and they go out to Combo Breaker, they're going to be on stream. There's going to be a lot of people watching Combo Breaker, because Combo Breaker is a CPT event, and say there's 20k people watching Combo Breaker, and my player gets fit. You got point. There's 20k people watching. Maybe people learned his name. Nowadays, if I want you to get into Capcom Cup, and A, I don't have to send you anywhere because everything's online, and B, if you do go to an event, say I fly out to, well, Combo Breaker is not even a CPT event. Say you go to, I don't know, Kings of the World. Well, there was like 4 or 5k people watching Kings of the World, and then you got 5th again, not in Capcom Cup. Me as an org, did I waste my money? There was only 5k people watching.
Yes.
And the person could just sit at home and stream, try to build the YouTube and all that stuff. And then if you build the YouTube, you built the YouTube and people are watching a YouTube channel, and say like you just have a logo, and there's, say your YouTube video gets 10k views or like 20k views or something, that's already more people than the people who watch Capcom. I mean, Kings of the World.
Right. No. Being a content creator, you have infinitely more reach than being a player. But what? Unless you're like #1 in the world and a really big event and a really big esport,
you're winning.
It's too top heavy. But what you're describing was always the issue. It was always a bad gamble to sponsor players to go to tournaments, pay for Daigo to go around the world. You know how many tournaments Daigo drowned in pools off stream?
I don't think it's a bad gamble. I don't think it was a bad gamble in 2018, 2019.
It was a better gamble. No. It was a bad gamble then too. That only existed because people were burning money at the furnace. The investors were burning money, never made a return on investment. That's why we don't see it anymore. It was a bad gamble then too. It's a bad gamble now. It was always, I'm completely disillusioned. Well, I've always known this. I've always known it wasn't a real thing. None of this is real, right? So like, if you want to guarantee, like as a player, all those things you mentioned to do to earn a sponsorship, yes, do it. Absolutely. And just know that you're going to take the money from the sponsors when you can, and it will dry up. That's all I'm saying. Until this is solved. And you know, it's always been a terrible gamble, and it's never had a sustainable business model. And I think a huge part of that is because of the open bracket formats and like there's the lack of leagues. Not saying that we shouldn't have open bracket formats. I'm just saying it's inherently incompatible with supporting a large number of sponsored players because there's no guaranteed screen time, right? It's just a complete gamble. Literally, you're gambling on which player will go to the furthest and get on the screen the longest, right? But this is where the twist is coming in, right? We've been talking about mostly NA focus and how eSports World Cup has been influencing that. The big twist, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up as well, is we just saw Big Bird and Angry Bird. They were also free agents, which they were sponsored by NASA for so long. That's crazy that they're not sponsored by them anymore. That's like synonymous to me, kind of like Mena RD and Bandits, right? They just got picked up by Team Reject in Japan. Right, that's Tokido's team. So we saw the actual trailer that they announced. Amazing production value. It has Haitani and I forget who the other partner is in there. They put the cloak on. They like summon the Reject logo, and then Tokido, he's there. He hops on a bike and literally pulls an ET. He literally flies across the moon with the Reject logo on it to get to Dubai and meet up with the birds. And they're in the deserts. And so two of the biggest free agents in the scene. Evo second place and Evo champion, you know, Angry Bird and Big Bird, and now they're on Team Reject, which is a Japanese team sponsoring Tokido, Akira, like one of the best or maybe the best Japanese Kami, Torimeshi, maybe the best Japanese Dalsim, and those are the players that are on the team permanently. And then in Street Fighter League Japan, it's those three players plus Lashar, he's actually on Team DRX. He's kind of like participating in their Street Fighter League Japan team. They're in the finals for Street Fighter League Japan right now. They're waiting to play the grand finals to see who goes to Worlds. They were picked up by that team. And to me, this is the sign of how esports, especially in the FGC and Street Fighter, it's only successful right now in Japan because Street Fighter 6 is huge, but also Street Fighter League Japan is huge. So many players now have a home to have full-time sponsorships because they have guaranteed screen time and play time, just like an NBA player, NFL player, whatever. You are at least for a season, unless you're like totally ass, they drop you. There's a lot more security there. Even if you're the worst team in the league, you play the same number of games as everybody else before the playoffs, right? There's a guaranteed minimum there and guaranteed screen time. And it's not an open bracket where like you could, if you're the worst team in the league, you literally don't even make it on TV. No, it doesn't work that way, right? I think Japan has proven or shown a sustainable model because the game is just that popular to back it up. But also the team format. I think the team format and guaranteed screen time and having a league is a requirement to sustain sponsorships. I don't think there's any other way beyond some kind of model where you guarantee screen time to make that work. I think that's just required.
I think Japan's SFL is way better in the sense of the actual way they structure it. The gameplay is boring. They play like 4 characters over there. But but the way they do it is so much better. I wish in America, I know this because the versus Vortex team is in like South, like a lot of their players are in Asia, so it's gonna be hard to do. But I think if they would change it in America to a way that it was, we're playing online, kind of like how Japan does it, but all the players were kind of required to stream their point of view. So like all the players are in a Discord and they're just talking or just shooting the shit, just chatting. I think that would be way more engaging for a lot of the viewers, and a lot of people would actually tune in to see that. The problem is, I think they would have to find the players or like keep the players in check of what they're saying, because like you don't want somebody to lose and then be like, haha, this game is ass, I can't believe I played this, or I died, this dude just drive rush jabs and this guy's so trash, or you know, this guy's a bitch or something. You don't want to hear any of that. So like you have to be kind of protective.
You don't, maybe I do, I don't know.
that's what you want to see, because then like it's gonna be a whole bunch of controversy. But that's kind of the difference of what I think we should be doing over here. I think if they had every Wednesday, all the players have to play, they're at home, make sure you log on to Street Fighter by 6 o'clock so we can make sure, you know, we can stream it from like 7 to 10 p.m. and then all the matches just kind of take place on a Wednesday. You have to stream your run. You obviously can interact with your stream, but I think so many people would be more engaged to kind of see it like that live instead of it being pre-recorded and I can't even talk to the player. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of dumbasses in the chat asking some dumbass questions, but you know, that's
no
that's
pre-recording it is what kills the engagement for Street Fighter League, not USA. Even Street Fighter League EU did a live format. It's like an in between, right? So the USA and the EU formats, they have the issue where they're not all in the same region, and it's not really that viable to do it online. So in Japan, it's run like a real league, right? Every week you tune in to see the evolution of the teams and the matches as they progress throughout the season. It gives time for also teams to develop and develop counterplay and strategize, right? For USA, it's all pre-recorded in like a week and a half. They play a bunch of matches every day, and then they trickle feed it out over like a course of a couple months to the audiences, pre-recorded and edited, and it just doesn't hit the same. People don't care. You can tell it's pre-recorded, and it leads to situations also where the games get patched and you're watching an old footage of an old patch, and it just is not live, it's not dynamic, and it's not engaging. EU found the middle ground where they said, okay, we're going to get people from all over EU together, and we're just going to do it live every day. Sort of like how Street Fighter League USA pre-records it. They're just going to do that, but do it live. So you watch every single day for like a week, and then they crown a champion. And I think that's already an improvement. Like that's already better than trickle feeding it over that long period. So only in Japan is it a real sports league, really. Only in Japan.
I think EU's was good, but at the same time, I think it's too much Street Fighter. Like you're not going to be able to put aside your day every day. I guess there's a time zone problem, but even at the same time, because I think for me to watch SFL EU, I think it had to be like 11 or 12 in the middle of the day, and I'm like, bro, I don't have this time all the time. Obviously, I could watch it after, but even then, I think doing it live per week would be better because it allows for counterplay. Say, like,
obviously, that's the best. That's the best format. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think it needs to be offline. I actually think online could be a good middle ground for Street Fighter League. But certain events have to be offline. But yeah, I think online is probably a better way to do Street Fighter League than the way they're doing it now.
They just need to have it like Japan. Japan just they figured it out. Japan's the only place. The whole point I'm trying to make here is Japan is the only place where this is working, and I honestly see a future where more and more top level pros just move to Japan. Because I think I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we see Big Bird and Angry Bird in Japan participating in Street Fighter League Japan. I think this is the only place where this is all working. Right? Meta RD's been talking about, like, man, I gotta go to Japan. Every time he does a trip to Japan, it's like, I gotta live here, I gotta train here. It's so much better. You know, Japan is just the place for Street Fighter, and I think a big part of it is the density of players, the online infrastructure, and also like Street Fighter League. Like, there's so many pros that they actually can sponsor and sustain because Street Fighter League actually gives a return on investment. Even if you pick the worst team in Street Fighter League, you at least got your name out there and you're in the mix, right? And maybe you can change the roster after a season or so. Maybe players get dropped, but it's still a lot more stable than the way we're doing things right now for all these players. You get sponsored and then they get a couple of 9th place finishes and then no one cares, or they qualify online and no one watches, and then by the time they even get to Capcom Cup, they're already dropped. It's like, what the hell was the point? Why were they even sponsored to begin with?
Yeah, I'm telling the online thing, it's all about the eyeballs, and like certain ways or certain events just don't get the eyeballs. Like the World Warriors for like certain events or certain area, it's just so bad and it's hard to keep track of. That's why Street Fighter League Japan is so good, because there's always so many people watching. I don't know what the American, like, I don't know if it's all Americans or it's all Japanese people watching those SFL, but even then, it's still just so many people having their eyeballs on the product. Right. But like I said, if America did online SFL and like the Japanese players or like the EU players would just tune in to watch, I think so many people would be watching and engaged. There might be a lot of, hiccups or like problems, but even then, it can still be made into something really good, I feel like.
Right. I mean, they take it seriously. You remember Dogura he got kind of spanked on social media a little bit because he was playing like Apex and said,
No, no.
"Don't worry, I'm not concerned. Don't Street Fighter League isn't important. We don't got to practice." And then he got like publicly scolded.
But even then, like getting fined for saying I'd rather play Valorant isn't like that's what I feel like you would need to do here. Like if I'm playing a game and I'm like, haha, game bad, fine me. I think that's fine.
Game sucks. You'd be bankrupt, iDom. All of iDom's Capcom Cup winnings going to Game Sucks during Street Fighter League USA Live Online.
In the NBA, some people would be like, certain fines are worth it because I'm getting my point across. Maybe those fines might be worth it, but even then, I think stuff like that is it'll be fine. Just find the players if they do something wrong. I'd much rather see SFL US online, in my opinion.
Yeah, they need to figure out a way to make this live like a real league. I think we just got to take lessons from Japan because that's the only place where esports and Street Fighter esports or FGC esports is actually starting to take root and find success. And everywhere else, it's falling apart in every other domain. And I think a big part of that is definitely Street Fighter League. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more Japanese teams picking up the rest of the world's top level talents over time. So get ready to learn Japanese, buddy. That's all I can say.
The Adam Silver meme, get ready to learn shiny. Yeah.
But the opposite is like,
no.
you're so good, you better get ready to learn Japanese because that's where you're gonna make your money. Well, I think we came to the final segment of the show where we've actually started the Brian F Patreon channel, where I went to you guys and I said, look, lay down the questions. iDom brought it up before about going through the comments and figuring out some questions, and we decided to actually make it real this time. So we're going dumpster diving, and we have one question here today from MDQP, who asks, for both of you, is there a regret in your FGC career? A deal you didn't make with a sponsor, a tournament you didn't go to, a break from a game you did or didn't take? Really in-depth question. That's a good one. You got an answer for that, iDom?
So I have two. Well, my biggest regret, and it's funny because we brought up this episode, was the not starting content earlier. I know you were hounding me so much, but like I said, in 2019, 2020, I was like, I don't need to make content. I'll just simply win every bracket because like that was the level of confidence I was on. But now I wish I had started earlier, at least during the Street Fighter V time, because like during Street Fighter V, I had so many content ideas, I had so many ideas, I had so many theories about the game, I had so many like just ideas. It obviously is going down in six, but even then, if I started content in like a 2019, 2020, I feel like I could have grown so much more than I have right now. So that's probably my biggest one off the top of my head. The other one, I guess there were certain events that I could have went to that I just didn't go to. I know there were a few combo breakers that I wish I went to earlier because like I said, going to tournaments nowadays, I'm going for the vibes and the good times. Like I'm obviously trying to win still, but I'm just going to hang out and see everyone and chat up with everybody there.
So when you didn't start content earlier, was that because, I mean, you mentioned being stubborn, like, oh, I'll just win everything, but aside from like your path to success, were you just not interested in it? Because it seems like now that's something you've gravitated towards, like you enjoy content creation, figuring things out, and that the exercise of creating something like that. So was that just something you didn't know you enjoyed back then, or were you just like, I don't know, too focused on competing?
I think it was more of me just being stubborn because like I said, it was me during the SF5 times. It was just me trying to be the best, just being the best version of myself. Like I was practicing so much during 5, I didn't think I would have time to make content, or I would be distracted by making content instead of practicing. But now I feel like I've gotten to the point where I can do both, and like I think if you just divide your hour correctly or use your hours correctly, you can have both the time to practice and the time to make content. And even if the content's just something super small or like just something like a 10 to 20 minute fun activity, it's still content out there for somebody. So I do wish I started earlier, especially during 5, because I had a lot of idea during like the 2019 or 2020 theory of 5. Actually, Infectious had a YouTube channel that I actually really enjoyed because he had so many like in-depth guides or like the intricacies behind Street Fighter 5, which I used to love Infectious's video, and his voice was so soothing. But yeah, I wish I had started that more, especially during the 5 times, because like I'm very blunt about it. I don't think 6 is that in-depth, so it's kind of hard for me to make content for 6 because there's not really much to talk about.
I think there is.
I don't think there's that much depth behind this game. I think this game is super simple.
And you think it's more simple than 5?
Yes, I think 6 is more simple than 5.
Oh, I haven't figured it out, man. I think 6 is so much harder than 5. Not that it's a harder game. I just I think 5 was so much easier. Maybe my brain was just wired to understand how the 5 pacing. 6 is like the idea of when to go in, when not to go in. That is like such a hard concept, I think, to grasp. That's what I'm struggling with.
I think you hold forward 90% of the time, and then when you're low on drive meter, you stall.
You hold back.
Yeah, and then you hold forward the other 90% of the time.
Okay, I'll have to implement that balance. But yeah, it's interesting you brought up the content one. I guess that's one I kind of have as well, even though I had always been streaming and I did a little bit of YouTube forever. I didn't really go or take YouTube seriously until like COVID as well, like everybody else. But also like everybody was super busy, you know. I mean, I was working and then streaming right after work, then going on a tournament. It's like I didn't have too much time. So even though I do feel like it would have been good to have started YouTube earlier, I don't know where I would have budgeted the time. And I think all of my regrets, I don't have any regrets in that sense. It's just like priorities, right? Mm-hmm. You have such limited time in a day to get anything done. So when I think about it, it's like, yeah, there's stuff I wish I had prioritized, I guess. But at the same time, there was other priorities in my mind at the time, right? So I think about like practicing or getting ready for certain events, like this last Stage Jam Slam, right? I was in between characters and like not locked in. I've been working on other stuff, like not competing really. So I played really poorly when it's my time to play on a half-baked Terry instead of like locking in. Like if I had stayed with Ed the whole time and stayed locked in, I could have potentially won a bunch of matches, right? But it's like, well, you know, I got to learn something new with Terry and try other things, and I'm working on other things in the background. So I don't have any like real crazy regrets like that because I'm always just prioritizing something else at the time. I guess the one I regret and I learned from it was like Season 3 Balrog. When Balrog got nerfed in Season 3 of Street Fighter 5 after being busted in Season 2, I guess I kind of regret not spending that time a little bit more to explore a lot more characters, and in general being like real tunnel visioned on certain characters. I think that's better for me competitively to be like just locked in with one character and like put the blinders up and not explore. But something I've been doing now a lot more is like learning all aspects of Street Fighter and trying new things out. Like I just learned how to crosscut 10 years later, you know, like weird little things. I'm like, I've never really played a Shoto that intensely, right? I didn't have to learn this skill. Now at Terry, I'm learning that a lot more, right? So I guess I kind of regret not spending a bit more time exploring the world of fighting games and Street Fighter as a whole. But at the same time, I was super locked in with one or two characters to try to win, and I think that's a more effective strategy to win. So do I regret it that much? No, but that's something I'm gravitating towards a lot more now, is learning more breadth of skills rather than depth necessarily.
I feel like, I don't know, I've always felt like locking in on one or two characters you really like was kind of the right way to play fighting games. Like you'll find the character that interests you and then you just want to lock in with them. I feel like that's how I've always done it. I've always found like the 2 or 3 characters I think are cool, then I just play those three characters. I know how to crosscut, but like it does take me a while, and I'm not the best at it. Like some people are like automatic at it, but me, I'll hit it maybe once every 3 or 4 jumping. But yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of stuff, I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the other big one too, this is super this is super old school. In 2017, and I remember the date. Well, I don't remember the date. It was early 2017. Yipes had tried to get me sponsored by Misfits, but I was still in school. And now thinking back to it, because Misfits was a huge org, and now I'm thinking back, man, if I took that, I probably wouldn't have finished school, but that was such a good org in 2017. And I don't know if I regret not joining it or what, but that was also another one.
Yeah, but don't you think it worked out? I mean, XSET's
I
a
guess
big
it
org
did.
as well, right? It's not like it's not like you never got picked up after that.
Yeah, I guess it.
and
But I
you
was,
finished school, right?
yeah, I did
So
finish school, so
I
I don't
think
know,
that's a
but
bit
it's still
better.
thinking about like, man, what could have been? I could have been an early jump, and I could have just went super hard grinding since 2017. Because even in the early
Brother,
days, even in
you're
the
looking at
early
it the
days, I
wrong
wasn't
way.
grinding as hard until like 2019.
It wasn't, but that wasn't what stopped you. What stopped you was you being scared to get on a plane. What are you?
I don't, bro.
What are you
I don't
talking
know.
about?
If Misfits was paying me, I think I would have probably had to buckle down and go anyway.
Oh, you had nothing to fear until now. So, yeah, maybe that's okay. You're flying out of the way until 2025, where planes are falling out of the sky left and right. But that makes sense. If we're gonna get that specific, I guess the only regrets I can think of is like when I look back to old tournaments, I'm like, man, I should have done, instead of going low, I should have went high.
No, no. You can't get that.
Oh,
Can't
you
get
don't
that
think
one.
I have? I have that from 2017 Last Chance Qualifier. I got to winners finals of the Capcom Cup LCQ against Nemo, and I was about to. I would have been on set point if I landed a jump in, a safe jump, and I could have done high low for the stun with instant overhead or crash and leg kick. And I went low because he's from Japan and he's godlike, right? I was like he's gonna know the instant overhead's coming from the safe jump, and he's gonna block it and punish with Aegis, pop the V trigger and get a full, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
went crouching leg kick and he blocked it, and then I ended up losing that set 3-2. And I'm like, man, if I had done instant overhead. Like if I just said like fuck it, you're not that good, I would have been in Capcom Cup. Like your mind starts like going down the branching reality paths.
That's too much. That's too much. I mean, like I said, to that point, it's like, oh man, if I didn't command grab here, I would have just won the tournament.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't think
can't
about
like
that with Evo.
Yeah.
You don't last game,
Yeah,
last
nah,
round.
not really. I don't really think about it that in depth because like it's still just a guess.
Yeah, you can go crazy like that. I mean, I think about my Momochi set as well. From there, I was about to beat Momochi at final round 2017, right? I think, oh, if I just press this button,
Yeah.
like that kind of shit will keep you up at night. So those
Yeah.
are the things I guess I would have, but those are silly regrets. Like those are irrational. Like you can't dwell on those. Like those are the ones that are irrational. But I also have the opinion like everything worked out the way it should have. When I look back, to me, it's more like you had priorities at that time, and you learned. Maybe you learned your priorities were misplaced, but you had to go through that to learn that, right? So those are the ways I approach it. And with that said, I think we're coming to an end of this episode of Extra Trashy. iDom, you always provide your words of wisdom to the people at the end. What do you got for us this time?
The last one, this one for this extra trashy, Capcom, please give us more skimpy outfits. It's free money,
Wow.
bro. I'm not an advocate, but at the same time, bro, I don't want the Dawson costumes, bro. Nobody wants it. There's 2 Dawson players in the world. Actually, there's one less Dawson player in the world because of another problem. But
Oh,
there
my
are not
God.
that many Dawson players in the world. Don't give them costumes.
Well, there you have it. iDom. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Peace. And that concludes this episode of Extra Trashy. At this point in the show, I wanted to take the time to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/Brian_F for supporting our content creation endeavors and supporting the Trash Talk podcast. I wanted to thank our members like Ace Crimson, Chuckle Chuck, Hasserus, Kelly Lyles, Alex, Sam Gibson, and Smoking Seabass, and all the names you might be seeing on your screen right now if you're watching the YouTube or video version of this on podcasting platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.